Hi everyone, welcome to this afternoon's session. Whilst we're waiting, there's still a few people joining us, so could I ask you just to pop your cameras on so that I can have a few faces to look at. I've got a lot of black screens at the moment. Thank you. Thanks, Adele and Claire. Nice to see your faces. Judith, thank you. Thanks, Gemma. Okay, I'm just going to give us a moment for another few people just to join us. Can I just check if someone could give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, please? Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Right. Now I'm going to share with you in the chat the workbook for this afternoon. So I'm sending that to you now. So if you get a chance to download that and then if you could have that open maybe in a split screen so that you can use that for your notes as we go through the session. Victoria, I've got your message that you can't hear anything, but I think everyone else can. You maybe want to check your settings and just make sure that the volume's high and a few things like that. Let us know how you get on. Lisa, I see that you're saying the computer that you have doesn't have video or microphone. Do you want to take 5 minutes and go and find a machine that does? Because I'm thinking otherwise your engagement in the session is going to be quite limited because we've got breakout rooms and things going to take place this afternoon. So if you want to leave the meeting and join in another machine, you might find that's a little bit more useful. Okay. Thanks for joining. Thanks for getting here in time. Nice to meet you all. We've still got a couple of people joining us, so I'll just admit them as we get the introductions done. So I'm just admitting people there. So I'll begin by introducing myself. My name's Morag Wilson. My background is in secondary languages teaching and school leadership. I was teacher and school leader for 30 years. Gosh, makes me feel old. But yeah, that's reality. And so hopefully I've got lots of experience that I can share and bring to your experience as well for our session this afternoon. So it's a 2-hour session. I'll make sure that we finish on time, if not a little bit early. I know how much you'll have to do. And so yeah. I thought we would start by just having a brief introduction to each other in the chat. I think is probably the best way to do that. So if I could ask you just to pop into the chat, your name, well, we don't really need your name, do we? Because we can see your name, but your role and the school you work in, and then your experience of mentoring so far. So if I can just give you a couple of minutes to do that, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Okay, thanks, folks. Starting to put some messages in. How long you've been mentoring, your experience of mentoring, or if you're new to mentoring, that's absolutely fine. But it's just to give me an idea of where we're at in terms of our experiences so far this afternoon. Okay, we've got a few people who are new to mentoring. Some people who have been mentors before. Sally, you've had some skit students previously. Okay. Oh, Faye, thanks for that tip. Just saying for Victoria, who can't hear anything, that press join audio at the bottom of your screen, and hopefully that should help. Okay, Laura, so you have some experience of mentoring, but maybe just in a different program. Well, those skills are highly transferable. So, right. Okay, thanks, Elaine. Thanks for that. So I'm just reading through your comments. I just realised Adele and we've worked together in the past, Adele, haven't we? I used to work at Parkview in Chesley Street. I thought I recognised your name. Yeah, yeah. So you get loads of experience of mentoring already. I already knew that, Adele. So it's nice to see you. Okay. Okay. So we've got a real experience. Thanks so much for giving me that feedback. Because we've got quite an experience amongst us, so that's perfect. So that allows those of us that have been doing it for a few years, even though it may be in the past, to share that experience with the rest of us as we go through the session this afternoon. So just bear with me while I do a couple of bits of housekeeping. I'm just checking. Yeah, fine. So there's a few people who have just joined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reshare that workbook again, because if you're not in the meeting, unfortunately, you can't see what's going on in the chat before. So I'm just resharing that workbook so that colleagues that have just joined us in the last few minutes have a copy of the workbook. It should be coming through with you just in a second. For some reason, it's a bit slow this afternoon. Yeah, it's speeding up now. Okay, there we are. Should have the workbook. Okay, so thanks for your introductions. We've already. Can we just have a quick in the chat? Can you just again put where you would stand in your understanding of the early career framework? And please don't worry about saying that you're 5, because if all of this is new to you, then your understanding of the framework might be quite limited. So please be quite honest. Don't be worried about that. In fact, if you can just share that with me privately, if you like, if you're happier to do that. Okay, all new to you. Okay, quite a few people in the middle. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's great. Okay, so there's no one feeling they're at a 1, which is a good starting point. Okay, perfect. I'm going to now share you the agenda for this afternoon. Just give you a moment to read over it. So when we get to thinking about the key content in blocks 1 and 2, but in particular the mentor and mentee partnerships, some instructional coaching and peer coaching, that's particularly where we'll get to the practical aspect of it and give you a chance to try some of these ways of coaching and mentoring, and a chance to get to work with each other a little bit more. But as it's our first session, there's some kind of general background setting that we need to do as we get going in this session. Before we go any further, just a little bit of housekeeping, just a reminder that we'll use the Chatham House rules. So whatever we discuss in the meeting stays in the meeting. As you've just seen before, I've worked with Adele in the past, we know each other, and so I'm sure that there's other people in the room that you know as well. So please just be careful if you're talking about examples about things, just keep it neutral, and then that way we can all just ensure that we keep that confidentiality in a safe environment. I'll give you a moment just to read through the aims. I'm hoping to give you a clear understanding of the programme. What the content will be. Well, blocks 1 you'll already have covered, but for blocks 2 as well. Thinking about your roles and responsibilities as a mentor. We'll cover instructional coaching, and more importantly, it's about feeling enthused and excited about the year ahead as you're working with your ECT. So the first part of this afternoon's session is thinking about the role of the mentor, an overview of the programme first of all. So we'll begin by answering the question. So the Early Career Professional Development Programme it's a 2-year DFE funded programme, and it was part of the DFE's recruitment and retention strategy for teachers, which was introduced, oh gosh, I think it must be 4 or 5 years ago now. And I'm just going to give you a couple of moments to read through some comments from that strategy. Okay. Okay, so those quotes are from the strategy, and they really highlight the importance of the early career framework, and it's a pretty linchpin strategy forming the recruitment and retention strategy. So let's have a think about what the framework is. So it's based on the best available evidence about what works in teaching, yeah. And they put together some learn that and learn how to statements, and you can see an example of those on the screen now. Okay, I'm sure you'll be becoming familiar with those. These build on the ITT program, and they support teachers to there's a little bit of overlap, of course there is, but it's about encouraging teachers to deepen the understanding that they already have, because that can be said between year 1 and year 2 as well. It's very much about deepening and broadening that experience that our young teachers have, and helping them to understand in a little bit more detail how that pedagogy translates in a variety of different ways to practical things in the classroom. Okay, so this is what the programme looks like for your ECT. Okay, so your ECT will have a local group session coming up pretty soon, this half term, which is for 3 hours. And then in term 2, it's a regional day where they'll spend the day at a conference, and then in term 3 back to a local group session. And then you'll see that there are the webinars, the self-study, and then of course there are weekly mentor sessions. In year 2, you'll notice that these mentor sessions reduce to 1 per fortnight. Okay. If we look at the programme for mentors, you'll see that you have had your induction package, and I realise there's a little bit overlap from this. I apologise for that, but hopefully it won't take up too much of a session. You'll have some familiarity with that. You'll have 3 2-hour sessions in year 1, and again those reduce to 3 1-hour sessions in year 2, and they're the webinars and then the reading and reflection, and again that reduces slightly in year 2 as well. Yeah. Okay. Okay, fine. Are there any questions about the structure of the programme before we move on? So your ECT's timetable is reduced by 10% in year 1, and that falls to 5% in year 2. So that allows for the time that they'll have with the meetings with yourself and so on. So let's think about your roles and responsibilities as a mentor. So trying to look for that consistency. So what is going to be our meeting time? So with my ECT, when are we going to meet each week, and where are we going to meet? So it's somewhere where we're not going to be disturbed every 5 minutes. You know what it's like in school. You'll be lucky if you manage to get through this whole session without someone coming into your classroom or being at the door. So making sure that that's something that's kind of set in stone almost. And then making sure that you access those reading and reflection materials from the online platform, and then making use of the one-to-one session guides and handouts to help you to prepare in advance for those mentor meetings. And then you'll be putting into practice the instructional coaching techniques that we're going to work on this afternoon, as well as and another responsibility is to attend the training sessions, which are now, and completing the webinars. But then importantly, if you have any concerns about your ECT, please raise those concerns with your induction tutor in school or the delivery partner. Okay, contact Northern Lights, please, if you have any concerns there. Okay, sorry, I'm just keeping an eye. There are a couple of questions I'll need to come back to in a second. I'm on my own this afternoon, so it just makes it a little bit busy to keep an eye in the chat as well. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else there that we needed to do. I'm hoping if you have any questions about the platform, please stay behind at the end, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. Now I'm going to give you time to read through some tips about the logistics of being a mentor. whenever you ask mentors the question, and I would have been exactly the same when I was in school, the issue is always time, isn't it? So that's always going to be our biggest challenge. But it's about focusing on the impact that your support and guidance can have on a day-to-day basis, even in those little things that your ECT might need some support with, can make quite a big impact on their well-being. So I'll give you a moment just to read through those tips. So I hope there's some useful things there. One of the key things that I would say to you over the logistics is be kind to yourself as well. We're not superhuman. I know that you'll want to do it all and do it to the nth degree and really appreciate that, but please be kind to yourselves as well. Because it's yeah. And in terms of keeping it human, when we're thinking about the logistics, make sure that you have time to have those little check-ins with your ECT about, oh, you said you were going to the lakes at the weekend. Did you have a nice weekend? And I mean, I'm sure you do all of that kind of thing. But sometimes it's easy to get sucked into the right, what have we got to do today? And suddenly you're into your mentor session and it just feels quite abrupt. So maybe just taking that time to nurture that relationship that you're growing. And just looking at the notes from that you provided me with before about your experience in mentoring, I can see that Barbara, Adele, and Joanne are fairly experienced mentors. Could I ask any one of the three of you to unmute yourselves and just see if there's anything you would like to add to that list? Because your experience is really valuable in the room this afternoon. So is there any other ideas that you would like to add to that?
I think making the personal link with your ECT is really, really important. Ours was a student here for a term before she joined as an ECT, so we already knew her. But I think it's really important to be a friend as well as a mentor.
Yeah, 100% Adele. Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you. Adele, Barbara, Joanne, is there anything else you would like to add to that? Or anyone else, for example, for that instance, in case I haven't picked everyone out properly? Okay, so that's thinking about the logistics. Let's now have a think about the programme and the content. So I'll just give you a chance to read those through. It's really important, that one, just at the bottom there. I'm just looking at that one. Champion your ECT, they're learning. They will be really hard on themselves. We are hard on ourselves as a profession, teachers, and it never seems to leave us. And so I think if you can really remember that you're the person that sings their praises and not defend them as such, but just really champion their cause and let them know that you've got their back, so to speak, and that you're there for them. I think that's a huge role of the mentor as well. Um, and then balance the program with day-to-day crises. It's easy, especially I think in term one where your ECT's working hard to establish behaviour routines and the planning and the time management and everything else. And so there are always little crises, aren't there? And it's trying to make sure that you balance the meetings with the quality talk about pedagogy and their practice and time to reflect, as well as some practical advice addressing whatever it is that happens to be the kind of topic of the moment, whether it's managing behaviour or a certain student in the class. Yeah, so moving that conversation on. And I think that's quite a skill to develop as well. And that's maybe something that will come out as we're doing the some coaching later on in the session. Anything anyone else would like to add to that, or to question, or just to comment on? Everyone okay? Fine, we'll move on to the next part. So now we're going to have a quick look on some key content from blocks 1 and 2. Look at where we are in the programme at the moment. So that's just an overview. So blocks 1 to 6 are year 1, 7 to 12 are year 2. And we very much model for our ECTs this practice of learn, practice and reflect. So that cyclical model where we're quite often learning together. There's maybe something that comes up in the program that you say, well, do you know this is new to me, but I'm interested in this. Let's work this through together and let's share our practice together as well. Practice it and then reflect and support your ECT in that reflection. And again, really picking out the positives, because it's easy for your ECT to be more kind of hung up on the negatives as well. Okay, so block one, as you know, because you'll hopefully have been through most of it, establishing a positive climate for learning. And block 2, we're thinking about how pupils learn, looking at memory and cognition. Okay, so we're going to just have a quick look at the content for both of those areas. So for block 1, we were thinking about establishing a positive climate for learning. Now that's deliberately placed early in the year. And it's taken from strands 1 to 7. So this is your curriculum knowledge for your ECT, in fact. What I'd like you to do is to highlight an area from the content there that was something that you focused on with your ECT. Yeah, and maybe something that they're still finding challenging, and then be able to explain to the rest of us why you chose that one and why that was relevant in your context with your ECT. Okay, so just identify one from any of the 13 that are on the screen now, and talk to us a little bit about why this one was a particular challenge for your ECT. I am going to be asking for some volunteers, so please be ready to share that with us. There's a spot in your notebook, I think it's on page 5, in your notebook for you to make some notes. And I'll give you, 2 or 3 minutes to do that. So say 3 minutes, and then I'll unmute myself for the moment and I'll respond to some questions in the chat. Okay, I hope you've had a chance to have a think about that. Ali, could I come to you, please? Ali Stoddart, could I ask you to unmute yourself and just share with us which
Yeah,
framework statement you'd highlighted?
so I looked at number one, and something my ECT was doing was focusing on positive behaviour. So, if a child is misbehaving, not following the rules or whatever, picking another child and picking out that positive behaviour that another child is doing to have that impact, just to keep motivation and well-being and things up. And we're still doing that, still an ongoing thing.
Okay, okay. And do you feel that that's been something that's been effective?
Oh yes, absolutely. It's just keeping it in her mind. That's all.
Mhm.
It's just we keep having to go back to that one.
Yeah,
It's quite easy to slip into no stop, isn't it? I think sometimes
yeah,
rather than
exactly.
that positive.
Of reinforcement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Gemma, could I come to you next, please? Thanks for that, Ali.
Hi.
Hi,
Um,
Gemma.
well, I didn't do a lot of block one with my ECT because she had another mentor and I swapped, but we have talked about kind of what her focuses were. And there was
Mhm.
kind of two areas. It's quite useful as well because she's got my old class. So
Ah,
with
okay.
so I know all of their behaviours and things. So
Yeah, yeah.
she focused on it was number two, like about securing her for high expectations, about securing having a secure sorry, number four, having clear expectations of behaviour, because I know that she did notice that they're quite a bubbly class. So she knew that she had to be, not the thing. I know people say you don't smile till Christmas and all that kind of thing, but the kind of being quite, we talked about how it's really important that even though they're little, because they're year two,
Mhm.
that you have to just be very clear with your expectations, because there are a few bubbly ones. But
Mhm.
like linked in with that, with managing behaviours, we kind of talked a lot about number two in managing behavior, the secure environment and the routines and things like that. And just one of the things that she focused on, she said they came in the class very, very unsettled in the morning. So
Uh-huh.
I know that she did with her past mentor, but with me as well, we talked about like having little a routine of where they'll come in and they'll see what the first job for the morning is, and they get that stuck in their books, and that kind of settled them down. And rather than them all just come running in having a chat about what they've been doing over the weekend and things. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's good. And that's obviously something that you're working on.
Yes,
Carry
yes,
on.
that's definitely an ongoing thing,
On.
yeah.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you. Thanks to both of you for feeding that. That's definitely useful there for us. Thank you. I'm just going to give you a couple of moments um, to read through the content for block one. I'm hoping that you got through that. There is a little bit of flex. So if you've still got a week or so or a couple of weeks that you haven't managed to do, then hopefully you'll manage to shoehorn it in as you're working through block two. But you can see on the right hand side there how that links to some of the framework statements as well. Okay, so I'm not going to dwell on this too long because I know that for most of us we've already covered that. So I'm going to move on to the reading and reflection part, and these are the materials that are available to you on the platform, and I'm hoping that you've already had a chance to read them. Yeah, and there's some of that in the workbook as well. So there's a chance for you to have a look at a later stage and to reflect on the question that is on the slide there. Okay, as I say, we're going to move on and focus a little bit more on some unpicking some of that, because some of it, I think we all know that as teachers the the things that we're focusing on from block one don't end because we've got to the end of block one. It's very much, as Gemma was just saying, it's that ongoing process of supporting your ECT and helping to refocus yourself as well. I used to find that really useful as a mentor. It kept lots of things really fresh in my mind. So let's think about the kind of things that will permeate the your ECT's learning and progress for the whole year. And one of those things is that creating that positive climate for learning. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Tom Bennett, the government's lead behaviour advisor. He works with the DFE closely, and he's chair of the task force to tackle and manage unruly behaviour in schools. And he's an active teacher. I actually really value the works that Tom Bennett writes, because I think that he's very realistic, having had the really recent experience and up-to-date experience in classrooms, I think that really helps. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to read through these couple of paragraphs, and then at the bottom of the screen, we've got a how far do you agree with the statement and why. So I would like you to say, do you strongly agree with good behaviour must be taught, not told? Are you somewhere in the middle? Do you disagree? And then the same with the second paragraph, which is about building routines, habits and norms. How do you feel about what Tom Bennett's saying there? And if you could just be ready to give us a little bit of feedback, I'll choose some people to share their thoughts with us. So I'll silence myself to give you a chance to concentrate whilst you read. Okay, thanks for giving me your thoughts in the chat there as well. Appreciate that. Michael, can I come to you? You said that you were one for those statements. Can you just tell us which part of it really resonates with you, please?
In particular, it was the bit where he talks about explaining why it matters. There's about a few instances where I just find it's much more effective, like when thinking about the rules and the school expectations. If I can articulate to them why it's important that we do that, get a much better response from them, rather than it being, well, I'm saying you have to do this because I'm the teacher. If there's a good, sensible reason, which there almost always is, you get a much more buy-in, and you come across as fair and more reasonable.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I like that as well. I like the way he kept those sentences short and snappy. They may not care, they may disagree, they may find it hard, and just how you went through that step by step, I thought just was really quite succinct. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Michael. Rachel, you said that you strongly agreed with both as well. Could I just take a quick bit of feedback from yourself, please?
Hello, yes, certainly.
Hi.
It's something that we've worked on a lot in our school, and certainly as a response to COVID, although it was obviously something that was required before that. We've spent a lot of time thinking about our pupils in terms of growth mindset, and in actual fact behaviour. It kind of gets separated from the curriculum, and in actual fact, if we're going to say that children need to learn everything in the curriculum, they also need to learn how to behave in a school, because nothing about home teaches them that,
Yeah.
So and also we try to treat behavior mistakes in school the same way that we would treat academic mistakes. So we've got this old growth mindset, mistakes help us learn, but then if you don't apply that to mistakes in behavior, it's given the wrong message to children. So we've strengthened that through our policy and things. But yeah, I absolutely agree with this. And building those habits, building those routines is your way of helping children to stay engaged and helping them to feel safe. And if they feel safe, their behavior will be better and their engagement will be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that modelling as well amongst staff, making sure that staff are modelling that behaviour. And so if you're having these conversations with your ECT, that's the start of that modelling for your ECT as well. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks for that, Rachel. We're gonna keep going a little bit with Tom Bennett, and I'm going to give you a moment just to read this. And if you'd like to take a screenshot of it, because I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms, just to give you 2 or 3 minutes to chat it through with a couple of colleagues. So take a quick screenshot of it and give yourself a chance to read it through. And if you hopefully got a quick screenshot of those that you can refer to, I think they may even be in your workbook. Can someone give me a thumbs up if they are? No. No, they're not in the workbook. Okay, so if you have a screenshot, I'll just stop sharing them and I'll pop you into breakout rooms. I think it's nice for you to get a chance to chat these through with each other, because there are a few things that you hear people say, and I know that in my career I heard people saying things like, oh yeah, you've either got it or you haven't when it comes to classroom management, behaviour management. Yeah. So you should be getting an invite to a breakout room now. We're just going to give you 3 or 4 minutes to have a quick chat, get to know each other in your breakout rooms.
Maura, can I just ask a quick question, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my ECT's already done blocks 1 and 2, so should I not be on this training today then?
Well, I don't think so. I thought I had replied to you, Emma,
Yeah,
in
I
the chat.
have, yeah,
Yeah,
but the problem is I've got blocks 1 and 2 on my dashboard, on my profile, but she's already done that. So we should be
Right.
working through blocks 3 and 4, is that correct? So I can just ignore
Yeah.
blocks 1 and 2. Right,
If
no bother.
if she's already done it, Emma,
Yeah,
yeah,
she's already
absolutely.
done it. That's
Yeah,
fine. No
yeah.
bother. Oh, well, I'll leave now then, and I'll go and check when they get the block
With
3
the
and 4
3 and 4
trainers.
is. Okay, okay. Thanks, Emma.
No bother. Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Hi, Julie, Lynn. I can see you haven't joined the breakout room. Can I just check that everything's okay? Nicola, have you got a camera that you could pop on, please? Hi, Nicola. Hi. Have you just joined us or have you been in and left? You're on mute, Nicola. Yeah, you're still on mute. Hang on a second, I think I can unmute you. I've just sent you the workbook in the chat.
Hi, sorry.
Ah, yeah, you're now in twice. So if you bear with me, I'm just need to see which one it is. I'm going to remove. I hope I don't remove it. Right, it's okay. You've done it. It's happened. Okay. Did you get?
Sorry, I was here, but I had to deal with a behaviour issue, so I had to run out and come back.
Did you get the workbook that I sent to you in the chat?
No, I didn't.
Right, let me resend that then. All right, I'm not able to send it to you because of admin restrictions. I think that must be at your end.
Oh,
Right, I've already sent it to you once. Let's try again. No, it's not allowing me to send it to you, so it must be something to do with the way you're logged in there. You must be
Oh.
your setup must be blocking me to set the work. But don't worry about it for this afternoon. But
Okay.
just try and unlock it for the next time. Is that
Yeah.
okay? I'm going to bring everyone back into the main room, Nicola, now. Okay, and
Okay.
then we'll pick up from there. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, it happens. It's life in school, isn't it?
Oh, now what am I doing? Oh, Lord.
No, that's me.
Oh, is that you? I was
I'm
thinking, oh,
sharing.
God, what have I done?
I'm
I'll mute
sharing.
myself.
Okay. Okay. Right, I'm bringing everyone back now. Okay. I think that's everyone back in the room. There's a few people's just connections are maybe a bit slow. I'm not going to take any feedback on that. I think it's just useful for you sometimes to share that thinking with each other and to kind of bounce that around a little bit. So we're just going to move on to the next part of the session. Now this next part, so this part is it's in your workbook and it's something that we're not going to unpack at the moment, but it's something that you might want to pick up on at a later stage and have a read through. So I'm just going to refer briefly to that one. Okay, so now that we've thought about the evidence base, let's have a go at bringing the materials to life. And this is in your workbook. So here is an example of something that you'll have seen during block 1. For each weekly session, mentors can choose from a detailed overview, such as the one that's shown on the page, and this is always on the platform. Yes, as you're working through it, so you could choose. You could ask the ECT to pick a class or a lesson that they find challenging, and then you would use some of the things that are on the screen to encourage that discussion with your ECT. Okay, and here is a look at some of the live materials. What I'd like you to do now is I'm only going to put you in breakout rooms in pairs. And what I would like you to do is I would like you to think about how you would make best use of this resource with your ECTs. Okay. And you'll have about 4 or 5 minutes in your pair to think about what could we do with this activity. So there's the action plan, the teacher's identified a key issue, and then you would use the table to plan out the action steps. Okay, and you could choose it from an area identified in the last activity. So if we just look back here, so it could be about meeting expectations, it could be about following instructions, it could be about routines. Okay, so how would you make use of this task to best use when you're having one of your mentor meetings with your ECT? Or if in fact you did this part of it, then what did you do? How successful was it? What would you change about it before you did that for next year? Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms in pairs. I'll do that nice and quickly, so just bear with me. Right, okay. There are some people who don't have a working microphone, so if you could just communicate with your partner in the chat, please. Okay. The rooms are open now. Lindsay, I saw your message that you don't have a microphone. Could you go into the breakout room, please, and use the chat to communicate? Is everything okay? All right, okay.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Rookie mistake. Rookie mistake. You can tell it's the start of half term. Thanks for that. I hope you had a good chance to chat that through with a colleague in the breakout room, and to share some ideas about how you've used the materials on the platform so far. And we're going to move on now to block 2, which is much fresher in that this is the one we're starting this half term, thinking about how pupils learn memory and recognition. And so I'm just going to give you a moment to have a look at the framework statements. So this block's about the science of learning. A chance to have a quick skim through, and I work now on the ITT program at Newcastle University, and my experience is that ECTs and our ITTs learn a lot more than maybe kind of 10, 15 years ago about how the memory works and about the science of learning. So I think that's probably a foundation that's hopefully reasonably strong with your ECT, and a good foundation to build upon. So here's the content for block 2. This is what it'll look like. You'll see how you'll be working through, what you'll be working through in each week. And see how quite early on we move on to cognitive load, then thinking about prior knowledge and how we build on those foundations, thinking about teaching complex materials, putting into practice, and then as always we finish with that reflection and the learning, and that action plan and target setting for the next part of the journey. And there's some framework statements that that will link to on the right hand side there. Okay. Now, just a reminder, someone asked me this last week. It's one of my ECTs actually in a session asked when she'll be assessed. It's not an assessed program. It's a supportive and developmental program. Okay, so we're not going to come and test anyone on framework statements, but I just think it's useful for you to see what we're doing and how it ties into that early career framework as well. Now, the reading and reflection documents are from research materials, and so we're not going to work on those now, but that is something that you could work through at your leisure and pick out the aspects that are interesting for you, and it gives you a time there, so none of it is taken a long time. There's a 15-minute article, but I think these are things that hopefully you find quite accessible and something you could pick up in a fairly short period of time. Okay, I'm aware that I'm talking a lot this afternoon. Our sessions won't always be like this, and I'm keen to get on to the practical part of the session, but we're going to just spend a little bit of time thinking about how pupils learn and how the memory works. And there's Willingham's model there, the really simple model of how the mind works. So we start with the environment that we're working in and any possible distractions that there might be, how the learning comes in, goes into the working memory, which has a limited capacity, and then through the practices that and the retrieval and the various strategies that we use, our aim is to move the knowledge and the learning from the working memory to the long-term memory, which is an infinite size, and where that's there and it's stuck, if we use that terminology, and that it's there for the students to retrieve at spaced intervals at any given time in the future. And as we all know, it can be easy to get something to the working memory, and the more complex part is how we move it successfully from there to the long-term memory. And then if we just look at Ebbinghouse's forgetting curve, you can see there the evidence for coming back to things and how quickly we forget things if we don't review it, and so that there's all of the research evidence there to kind of base the our understanding of how the mind works. And I'd just like you to take a moment to think about why this is so, sorry, not why, but the implications that this has for your work with your ECTs or your ECT. Would anyone like to unmute themselves and say why they think this evidence is important for the work that you're doing? Why is it so crucial? Which aspect of it do you think your ECT? Judith, you've unmuted yourself, sorry.
Yeah, I've been talking to some people already who work in special, and I think for our setting, definitely this is a huge kind of huge importance for our ECTs, and kind of that understanding of actually our young people have so many other kind of complexities that interfere with their working memory, especially kind of those who are autistic, and they've got that hypo kind of sensitivity going on. So actually some people like a lot of noise in the environment, others don't, and it's kind of working out what works for each young person rather than thinking about the environment as a whole.
Yeah.
And then obviously our deliberate practice and kind of revisiting takes a lot longer,
yes,
for our young people than for others, and
yeah.
kind of being confident not to move young people on unless they're absolutely secure, not moving them on too quickly. And that might feel like you're going very slowly, but actually it needs to be individualized for each young person. And I think for our context, this section is huge.
Yeah, and I think that point that you're making about being confident that it's secure before the learning's secure before you move on, that's such a big ask of an ECT, because I think that confidence very much comes with the experience and the chance to have practiced it and got it wrong a couple of times. And so, yeah, I think absolutely. And I see how that's in your context is particularly probably particularly challenging, because your ECTs are probably keen to move on. Let's move on to the next thing, but it's about encouraging them to hang in there. Yeah, thanks for that, Judith. Appreciate that. Thank you. Let's now look a little bit about retrieval, which obviously is important when we think about Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve and knowing how the mind works, and the importance of keep coming back to knowledge and checking in with it. And it can feel stressful to try and it feels sometimes like something else to fit into the lesson. And I know that that's sometimes something that ECTs talk about, especially when they're aware of a lot of content that they might have to them that we all have to cover. So I'm just going to give you a moment to read the slide and ask you to choose one element from the list that you would particularly focus upon with your ECT. And I'm going to ask a couple of people for some feedback about which element they've chosen and just to justify why they've chosen that one with their ECT. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to read and have a think. Okay. Elaine, would you mind if I came to you first, please? Would you mind unmuting yourself and telling us which aspect you felt that you would highlight with your ECT and explain why? Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I was looking at the making retrieval practice low stakes or no stakes because we're finding at the moment a lot of the children in year 5 and 6, my ECTs in year 5, I'm in year 6, but a lot of them there's a lot of anxiety about SATs tests, any testing really. So trying to get the my ECT on board with this, just every day, just asking them a question about something they've done beforehand, so that, and it's this whole thing of, if you get it wrong, it really, really doesn't matter. Nobody's going to laugh at you. Nobody's going to smirk. It's this whole, because we do find that there's a few of them, they're a bit too cool for school at the minute. They're a bit too cool to be getting things wrong. So it's we also are doing this when we do these retrieval practice. We do it hands down, so we kind of just pick on people so that we can target our questions a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to get the ECT on board with that at the moment. She's doing pretty well with it, you know.
That's good. I think that's a good strategy. It's a good area to focus on quite early on, because I think as ECTs as well, they want to make sure they get it right, and everything should have a test and a result. And yeah, so to say, actually, it's fine, let's just try this and see how it works.
Yeah, and they want to, I think they want it to show some evidence as well. Like, you know, that they are testing the children. It's like, well, it's not really about that. It's about this, it's this ethos really, isn't it, of having this openness with each other, that you can ask a question, get it wrong and move on. So
yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that, Elaine. That's brilliant. Sally, would you mind if I came to yourself, please, and you could share one with us as well? Thank you.
No, it's fine. About doing it frequently and as often as possible, and that's something that we try and do as a school, but we've got a new head teacher and he's trying to really sort of focus on that a lot, and that retrieval practice of what they've learned. So it's just whenever you can bring in that, applying the facts they've learned to sort of whenever you can, really. So if you're doing something in English and it relates to something you've done in topic, or like in a history lesson or something that year or the year before, or even a couple of years earlier, just saying, oh, do you remember anything about this, and just getting them to retrieve them facts, and sort of bringing it in whenever you can, just quite casually, not like in a really sort of like testing them way, just in a sort of discussion way. And not, like I said, not testing them on it. It's just sort of to see what they can remember.
Yeah, and so encouraging your ECT to make those links.
Yeah. So I've got two students. I've got one who's in year 1 ECT and year 2 ECT.
Okay.
And year 2 ECT sort of is very, very good at doing that. And the other one is really good, but obviously she's only just started at our school. So it's sort of getting her to talk to the year groups and knowing what they've learned, and getting her to back on what the children actually know, so she can continue to test them on it.
Yeah, because until you've taught it, almost it can be challenging to make those links across the curriculum, can't it?
When she sort of has a bit more of an idea, because she's been here for a year already, she sort of, and is sort of knows a little bit more of what's gone on in school, whereas the other student doesn't. So it's just learning, and she's really good at talking to teachers and things. But
it's brilliant
to do that.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Sally. Thank you. Okay, brilliant. I hope that gave you a chance to think a little bit about retrieval and how you can support your EC to do that. I think we've had quite a chat there about how we would encourage effective retrieval practice, and how we encourage that to in our ECT from the examples that we've just heard. And I think that's maybe one. I'm just going to give you a moment just to kind of tie together our thinking for block 2, because we're going to move on in a second, but just make a couple of notes to yourself about maybe an aspect of something that we've discussed so far in the session that you're thinking you would like to maybe be more aware of in your next mentor session, or something that you'd like to focus particularly on. So I'll just give you a moment to make some notes for yourself. We're halfway through the session. I'm aware that it's a long time to sit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, shall we take 5 minutes, just a quick comfort break, whether you need to stretch your legs, go and grab a quick drink. And we'll pick back up at 8 minutes past, okay? And then we'll have the final part of the session. So please feel free to switch your camera off and mute yourself. And for the next 5 minutes, have a breather. I'll see you soon.
So she was just saying, like, just watch, like, she's, because it's not just like, yeah, she's lovely, but like she's doing the job.
Oh, she's definitely doing the job.
And I was like,
Yeah.
So she has to, she goes, I think
Okay. I hope you had a chance to move around, move your legs, get back into the session. If you could pop your cameras on, it's really nice to see some faces out there. I'd appreciate that. Thanks very much. Thank you for those of you that have done that. Appreciate that. So we're going to move to the final part of this afternoon session, and we're going to get a little bit more practical than we've maybe been so far. And we're going to think about the difference between mentoring and coaching. So I'm going to give you a chance just to read through the similarities between mentoring and coaching. So I think the key things to pull out from both is that it's about building that relationship and having that one-to-one openness, that honesty, that ability to feel that you're in a safe environment where you can talk about things. Both mentoring and coaching encapsulate that and the key principles of it, and that trust and respect, and also that that desire to improve. Okay, that desire to make things better. And here are some of the differences. I'll let you read through them. Okay, so mentoring is very much more about you as the mentor being the expert and your ECT as the novice. And so you're setting the pace of things, you're controlling things, and you're very much more guiding. And the ECT sometimes is looking to you for answers. Okay. And you've got experience in the area that you're talking about. Whereas when it comes to coaching, you don't necessarily have to have experience in the area you're talking about, but you have the skill to encourage your ECT to consider solutions for themselves, to identify those goals and how they're going to improve. Okay, and the model that we use is instructional coaching, which sits somewhere in the middle of both. So it's a kind of best of both worlds. So you can act a little bit more as a mentor when you think that's necessary, and you can move a little bit more towards coaching when you think that's necessary. So with the instructional model that we use, it sits very much in the middle of the diagram. We base it on the Jim Knight model, and if you're interested to learn a little bit more about that, if you're not familiar with it, then there is a short clip on YouTube. So if you just search instructional coaching, Jim Knight, it's about a 6-minute video. You may find that useful just to kind of give you a little bit of a summary. And you can see in the kind of level of autonomy, if you're acting more as a mentor, then you have the autonomy and your ECT has less. But as you move more towards facilitation, then you're giving that autonomy to the ECT and helping them to steer it and guide it in a direction that works for them. So okay, and so we've thought about instructional coaching, and here's an example of here's the instructional coaching model. So what you begin by identifying, it's a cyclical model. So it's identify, learn and improve. And we talked about this a little bit about the start. So you begin by asking the question. So what am I seeing in the classroom? What do we think something crucial that needs to be improved upon? And how will that have an impact on students' learning? And that real getting down to what is it we want to work on that's going to have a noticeable impact on the students' learning. Once you've identified what that is, then you move to the learn stage, where you start to talk about exactly how we were going to make that happen. What will it look like? You get down to what I like to call the granular detail, so the nuts and bolts of exactly what that will look like. And that's a chance to practice that in mentor sessions. And then you might do a little bit of deliberate practice in the mentor sessions as well. That might also be a chance where your ECT goes and watches someone else, an expert. And then the last stage that you'd move into the cycle is where the ECT applies the learning and they put that into practice, and then you review that progress with them at a suitable time, and then the cycle starts over again, because no doubt part of the review process will identify something else that is going to be the focus of the next cycle, if that makes sense. So it's that constantly moving around in that cyclical action. So what are the benefits of this? Well, it's really individualized to you and your ECT in the context that you're working on. It's classroom based, it's very much focused on skills, and as I said before, you move through one cycle and that kind of automatically kicks you into the next cycle again. And so we'll keep coming back to this model, and that's the one that you'll become familiar with as you go through it. So what we're going to move on to now is giving you a chance to have a go at this in practice, and we're going to work through it in pairs. So I'm going to ask you when in your to find pages 16 and 17 in your workbook, and then I'll just give you a moment to read through the scenario about Ebony, who's your ECT. Describes the school you're working in, and it describes the situation. So I'll give you a moment just to read and kind of digest the scenario that you're going to be addressing. Okay, so you're at the part of the cycle where you've already identified with Ebony the target, and the target is to improve lesson transitions. Okay, but you've noticed from working with Ebony and for discussions that you've made that it's maybe not happening. The uptake of the change is a little bit slower. So what you'd like to do is work with Ebony to move things along a little bit more quickly. And you've read about when you've been reading some research, you've found Doug Lemov's book, which talks like oh gosh, what's the exact title? Be a Champion. I forget the exact title of it. It's probably there in the page somewhere. And yeah, Teach Like a Champion, that's what it is. And you've come across something called Brightening Lines, and you're thinking this is a useful piece of research. It's quite detailed. It's some techniques that you think that Ebony would find useful in terms of improving these lesson transitions. So that's kind of where you're at the moment. You're now going to plan with your partner the conversation that you'll have with Ebony at the next 2 stages of the cycle. Okay, so what questions are you going to ask? How's your conversation going to go at the learn phase, and how's it going to go at the improve phase? And how can you make sure that the changes that you're trying to encourage her to do, that encourage her to make, that they're sustainable, that's something that's embedded, practiced, and is going to last. So I'm going to just show you a couple of other things. So you might want to ask yourself these questions, okay, at each of the different stages when you're working with your partner in a breakout room. So basically, you're going to plan the conversation, which is a little bit of a challenging conversation because it's something you've been working on with Ebony, and it's just for whatever reason, it's not happening as quickly as you think it should be happening. So you want to make sure that you've planned that conversation before you go into the meeting with her. So how do you think that conversation is going to go? What kind of things are you going to talk to her about when you speak to her, and say, how are we going to do this? What could we do? You want to talk to her about Doug Lemov's strategy. When might that be used? Where could it be used? And so what kind of questions are you going to use? Are you going to plan in advance to get that conversation going with her? And then in the improve stage, you're really hoping that Ebony is going to be clear about exactly what's going to be different, and you're going to help her to articulate that, what's going to look different in the transitions in her classroom. How are you going to monitor it? What can you do to support her in making those changes? Okay, so I think it's important that you have a reasonable amount of time to do this. All of this is in your workbook on page 16 and 17. So I think you've got everything you need there. There are a couple of people who said they can't see the workbook because they don't have Word on the document that they're on the device that they're using. So you maybe could take a quick screenshot those people so that you have it when you get into the breakout room. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms for 7 or 8 minutes where you work with your partner on the kinds of questions that you would want to ask to plan the conversation that you're going to have with Ebony. So just bear with me a second. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, just before I open the breakout rooms, are there any questions that anyone has? If there are, please unmute yourself and just ask any questions. I'm hoping that's clear. Okay. Right, I'm going to open the rooms now, and we'll say probably 10 minutes in the room and give you a decent chance to chat that through with each other. Okay, I'll pop into the rooms and see how you're getting on. Laura and Lynn, is everything okay? I can see you're still in the main room. Hi, Gemma, Laura, and Lynn. I can see you're all still in the breakout room, in the main room. Can I just check that you're all right? Hi, Gemma, is everything okay? Gemma, I've assigned you to room. Oh, hi, Gemma. Can you hear okay? Hi, Gemma.
Sorry, I think the internet's just really bad. It just keeps going off, but I'm
Yeah,
back.
it does. You're back. I'd put you into another breakout room. So have you got a request to join breakout room 1?
I did have, and then that's when it went wrong, but I haven't
Right,
anymore.
I'll tell you. Let me put you in another breakout room. Okay, have you got an invite there?
Yes, I have for
Right,
3,
okay.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
thank
Try
you.
that. Okay. Okay, welcome back to the session for the main room for the last part of the session. I hope you found that useful. I think sometimes the rooms that I managed to get into, I know colleagues were finding it useful to just chat it through the current context or situation where they're at with their ECT and how they might use the cycle, the instructional coaching, and how that might become part of their weekly practice. So that's useful. Let's look for our part 4 of the session on peer coaching. So it's a time for you as mentors to consider an area of practice that you would like to develop. And you can get some advice from a colleague. Again, I think we'll stick to the same pairs that you've been working in because you're starting to build that relationship. So what I'd like you to do is to decide on a tight area of practice you'd like to improve further and what the goal would be. And then you will have a coaching conversation. And I'll give you some questions that you may find useful. They're also in your workbook. I think it must be in about page 18 or 19 now. Those questions will be there. So for example, if I was thinking about it, I was quite often in a situation where I had an ECT. So as a languages teacher, I would have an ECT and maybe French wasn't the spoken French wasn't as strong as it really needed to be. And so part of my role is to support them in the use, to support them to ensure that their confidence builds in spoken French. And that can be quite a delicate balance. So I would quite probably like to have a coaching conversation with someone about how I could best go about that. So I would identify, for example, if I was speaking to Claire as a person who was coaching me, I would identify that that was my area of practice, and then Claire, sorry, would use questions like this to get me to focus quite tightly on exactly how I'm going to do it. So, okay, tell me what it's about. What do you think the first steps would be? What do you think is going to get in the way? What are the obstacles? And how can you support change in your habits and so on? Okay, so these are some of the questions that my coach might ask me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you 2 minutes on your own to think about an area of practice that you would like to improve before I put you back into breakout rooms and you talk to each other and you support each other in asking questions of each other about how you might go about that. So I'll give you a moment just to identify the area that you want to focus on. Again, if you don't have the work booklet, if you might take a screenshot of the questions, just so that you've got those to refer to. Okay, I'm going to open your breakout rooms again. I'll send I'll broadcast a message when it's time to swap over so that you both get a chance to have your question answered and a chance to be the coach. Okay. You should have your invite now. Hi, Vicky. I can see you're still in the main room. Is everything okay? Okay, welcome back to the main session. Really fruitful and supportive conversations going on there. So thanks for your engagement, and it was a joy to pop into the rooms and hear the discussions that you were having. As we draw the session to a close, there's just a couple of things that that we still have to do. Research shows us that if you've been thinking deeply about something, if you make some notes and set some actions immediately after doing this deep thinking, then you're more likely to be successful in implementing those actions. So can I just give you you know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes to make some notes about what you've learned from the session this afternoon, a couple of things that you're going to implement with your ECT, and just focus a little bit on the conversation you've just had now with your colleague about your own development, and thinking about what you need to support you to do this, and what your success measures will be. Okay, so I'll just give you 2 minutes to make some notes. Thank you. Okay. There's just one last thing I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, please. There's a feedback for this afternoon session. If you could fill that in, please. There's a QR code on your screen, or there's a link as well on your screen. It's the one that says mentor. It's not the ECT one. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, it should probably only take you 2 or 3 minutes now. Then we'll be able to wrap the session up. Thank you. And anyone give me a thumbs up if they can get into the feedback form? Yeah.
I've got into the feedback. What do we put down as the name of the event?
If you put mentor year 1, session 1.
Right. Thank
Thanks. Thanks.
So I've gone past that and I just put mentor training. Does that matter?
That's fine. It's fine. Don't worry. They'll pick it up. Yeah, with the date, I'll help them to link it. Thank you. Thanks, Ali. Okay. Since most of you are busy filling the feedback in, I'm just going to say, for those of you that may have finished or be about to finish, thank you so much for your engagement this afternoon. We have managed to shave a little bit off. It's a particularly packed session, this one, so well done. Collective well done for getting through it. And as I say, thanks for your engagement. Really enjoyed your company. If you have any questions, please stay in the room. But otherwise, when you've finished your feedback, please leave the room and have a good evening and a good rest of the half term. I hope to see you next term as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, folks.
Could I just ask you, Morag?
Yeah.
It was on behalf of the, obviously I'm not the induction tutor. She wanted to know, will there be forms that she has to fill in? Does she have any, training that she should be doing?
Not that I'm aware of, not as an induction tutor, no. But the best person for her to check.
Sorry, carry on.
It was just to say to check with Northern Lights
Okay.
if there's anything that she needs to be doing, but I'm not aware of any training as such that happens. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't know if at the end, do I have to do a report on my ECT every term? Is that right?
Not for the ECT. You will do for the induction. Whoever the body is that you work with, they'll ask you for something, but not for this part of the program. Yeah, it's not assessed. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi, Morag, could I ask you a couple of quick questions?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, it's about my current ECT. She's here on supply until Christmas.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you know what? Hang on a second, Victoria. I'm just going to pause stop in the recording.
Okay, thank you.